Since I was a small child, my parents and grandparents would bring me across Newfound Gap Road to visit Cherokee, North Carolina. Back then, it felt like a truly magical place. We'd be welcomed by a tribal member dressed in traditional Cherokee garb, often posing for photos with tourists. We would watch Unto These Hills, a powerful outdoor drama that opened a window into the resilience and history of the Cherokee people. I remember wandering through the shops in town, filled with handmade crafts, beadwork, and souvenirs that all felt steeped in meaning and tradition. Every trip, I'd return home with a few arrowheads, a toy bow and arrow, and, although I didn't realize it at the time, a growing awareness and respect for Cherokee culture and its deep roots in this land. These memories are from a time before the casino come to town. The Cherokee I knew then was a community defined not by gambling halls or neon signs, but by storytelling, tradition, and a quiet reverence for the past. Now, that last statement isn't a knock on the casino. I don't have anything against gaming, but I've always heard, and maybe you have too, all the warnings about casinos. That when one opens in a small town, it spells disaster. Local businesses suffer, crime surges, and the economy eventually pays the price. So when someone echoed that sentiment in a past video comment, and I began researching for this piece, I fully expected to find proof to back these claims. Honestly, I was ready to be critical. But the deeper I dug, the more complicated the picture became. The evidence just didn't line up with the narrative I expected. In fact, by the time I began piecing this video together, my perspective had shifted almost completely. If you've ever thought about casinos and their relationship with communities the way I used to, prepare to see things in a new light, possibly, because that's exactly what happened to me. Before we go further, let's rewind. How did gaming even begin in Cherokee? And what was life like on the Qualla boundary before the arrival of the casino?
For most tribal nations where there was, again, abject poverty for generations and oppression and a loss of dignity and self-respect, to go from that to being a region leader where we are having a significant impact. Our people have nice homes, they have nice cars. It's a complete 180 from what it was when I was a kid.
In 1838, the federal government forcibly removed most Cherokee west to Oklahoma Territory, a forced migration that is historically known as the Trail of Tears. Approximately 1,000 Cherokee, members of the Qualla Band, avoided the forced migration by hiding in the southern mountains. The Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, also known as the EBCI, traces their ancestry to these stoic Native Americans. Today, the EBCI reservation encompasses 56,688 acres nestled next to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Now enter the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act. It was passed by the U.S. Congress in 1988 to establish a legal framework for gaming operations on Native American land. It was a pivotal piece of legislation aimed at promoting tribal economic development, self-sufficiency, and strong tribal governments, as well as self-determination for the Cherokee people. The act followed a 1987 U.S. Supreme Court decision in California, which affirmed the right of federally recognized tribes to operate gaming facilities on their lands without state interference if the state permitted any form of gambling. The purpose of the act is stated as follows: to promote tribal sovereignty, to empower tribes to generate revenue and jobs to support self-governance and reduce dependency on federal funds, to ensure fairness and security, provide regulation to protect players, and ensure gambling is conducted fairly and honestly. And finally, to shield against criminal activity, to establish standards and federal oversight to prevent organized crime and corruption. Gaming under the IGRA was divided into three classes: Class 1, 2, and 3, which was approved in Cherokee. Class 3 is full casino-style gaming, slot machines, blackjack, roulette. Tribes must negotiate a compact with the state, which must be approved by the U.S. Department of the Interior. In 1994, the state of North Carolina and the EBCI entered into a compact for the purposes of allowing Class 3 Indian gaming on the Cherokee Reservation. And in 1997, the EBCI entered into a management contract with HARRAH'S to run the casino operation, an agreement which is still in force at the present time. The EBCI was obligated, as is the case in all such compacts, to abide by the restrictions stated in the compact between the state of North Carolina and the tribe. Before the opening of Harrah's Casino in 1997, the economy of Cherokee, North Carolina and the surrounding Qualla boundary faced significant challenges. First, high unemployment. In the early 1990s, unemployment rates in Swain County and the Qualla boundary often exceeded 20%, reflecting limited job opportunities in the region. Secondly, seasonal tourism dependence. The local economy relied heavily on tourism related to Great Smoky Mountains National Park. However, this sector was seasonal, leading to employment instability and financial uncertainty during off-peak periods. Third, there was a decline in manufacturing. The late 20th century saw a decline in manufacturing and textile industries in the area as many companies relocated operations offshore. This shift resulted in job losses and further economic downturn. Finally, low per capita income. Before the casino's establishment, per capita income in the region was approximately 70% of the statewide average, indicating widespread economic hardship. So all things considered, prior to the casino's opening, Cherokee, North Carolina faced high unemployment, economic instability, and the decline of traditional industries, leading to a challenging economic environment for its residents. For a little more about this, we'll go to former Chief Judy Dugan, which was chief from about 95 to 1999. Before the casino, Dugan said, many in the region worked for 6 months when tourists visited the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, but had to rely on some form of welfare during the winter. And as manufacturing and textile plants in the area closed or moved overseas, the economic picture was not a healthy one for the tribe or anyone else in the region. We were poor, almost totally dependent on the federal government for subsistence, and that's not good for the people to have to depend on someone else. It tears at your spirit, and this is what Indian tribes have gone through throughout history in this country. Gaming is helping us out of that mentality, and now we're helping ourselves, and that's exciting. So what does the casino actually contribute to the Cherokee tribe? I found some numbers from fiscal year 2023. Over $206 million in societal contributions. In 2022, Harrah's Cherokee casinos contributed over $200 million to the community. Over $129 million in salaries and wages. This doesn't even include healthcare benefits. Harrah's Cherokee casinos are major employers in the state of North Carolina, receiving wages far above the state's minimum wage for hourly positions. All Harrah's Cherokee casino employees have access to tuition, certification reimbursement programs, and career growth opportunities within the casino. Over $177 million in total payments to vendors for goods and services. Harrah's utilizes local vendors whenever possible, putting money directly back into the counties they are in. Harrah's Cherokee Casino brought in 4.2 million total visitors to the area. The casino also donated over $1 million to local nonprofits during this fiscal year. To elaborate a little more on this impact, success in gaming has helped to lift the nearly 16,000 members of the tribe out of generational poverty. Adult Cherokee peoples get up to $14,000 a year in per capita distributions from casino revenues, and the tribe has put profits where the community needs them most. In 2009, the tribe opened an impressive $124 million pre-K through 12th grade school for children within the Qualla boundary. In 2015, they opened the $80 million first phase of an expansive medical facility that offers various services from dental work to optometry to physical therapy and radiology. The second phase is a $16 million residential treatment facility for those struggling with addiction and mental health issues. In 1992, Duke University professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences, Jane Costello, launched the Great Smoky Mountains Study. She and some colleagues began following 1,420 kids in rural western North Carolina, aged 9 to 13. Costello found that by year 2001, 4 years after tribal members began receiving per capita checks, the number of Cherokee kids living in poverty had dropped by half, 50%. Behavioral issues among them had declined by 40%, to approximately the same rate as those who have never been poor. Over the years, on-time high school graduation rates improved and minor convictions fell. When checking back in with these kids after a decade, Costello determined that those who had been the youngest when the money started coming in were less likely to have developed mental health issues or substance use disorders. Payments dispersed to graduating Cherokee seniors is sometimes referred to as the big money. In the beginning, these seniors would receive a lump sum payment provided through casino revenue. These payments began small, as they were based on a percentage of the casino revenue, but as time passed and business began to boom, payments have now reached the six-figure range. The Tribal Council has now broke the lump sum payment into installments, for one, to reduce the tax responsibilities, and for two, to provide more financial stability for these young people. While exact amounts are not publicly disclosed, an article from 2016 estimated the installment plan would enable a total payout of $344,000 to graduating seniors, $214,000 more than under the current lump sum plan. So breaking these up into installments lessen the tax burden, and they get to receive more money. I mean, $344,000 to graduating seniors, a staggering, life-changing allowance. While concerns about gambling addiction, the decline of small business, and cultural shifts often surface in discussions about casinos, the benefits in Cherokee appear to far outweigh the drawbacks. During my most recent visit, one resident remarked that the casino had almost single-handedly lifted its people out of poverty. This sentiment isn't rare. It's echoed in many conversations with locals who have witnessed firsthand the transformation of their community over the past few decades. Before the advent of gaming, Cherokee faced high unemployment rates, limited healthcare resources, and struggling schools. Now, thanks in large part to the revenue generated by Harrah's Cherokee Casino, the tribe has built state-of-the-art facilities, invested in youth education, and provided direct financial benefits to its members. The roads are better, public services have improved, and a sense of long overdue opportunity is in the air. Of course, challenges remain. Some tribal members acknowledge that the casino could and should do more to lift up the entire community, particularly those living in hardship or people trying to run businesses. But they also recognize that real change requires a collective effort. The casino can open the door, but walking through it requires initiative, education, and support within the tribe itself. On the long path of Cherokee self-determination, the casino has served not just as a revenue source, but as a catalyst, accelerating progress and providing a platform for broader community development. Is Cherokee the same as it once was? No, it's not. Change is inevitable, but is it better? Well, that depends on who you ask and why you're asking the question. If we use the welfare and opportunity as a Cherokee people as the measuring stick, the answer seems to be unequivocally yes. And maybe that's the only statistic that truly matters. And by the way, I mentioned at the very beginning of this video that when I was a child, there was a magic in the air when visiting Cherokee, North Carolina. And the truth of it is there's still a magic in the air. It just depends on what you're looking for and where you look. That's it for us. Thanks as always, and we'll see you next time.